What is an open secret in your profession that we regular folk don't know or generally aren't allowed to be told about? We don't actually know how general anesthesia works at the molecular level. There are theories but nothing concrete. Dummy thermostats are pretty common. It basically works like a placebo where people feel more comfortable when they think they have control over the room temperature. It results in way fewer complaints. If you see 12 different sellers for an item on Amazon, in all likelihood the total number of sellers is probably 3 to 4. All of whom have multiple names selling the same item at different prices. All hotels have had bed bugs at one point or another. High-end and low-end hotels. What separates the good hotels from the bad ones are how they handle bed bugs once they are discovered. But if you ask the front desk if they have ever had bed bugs, they will typically lie and say no, since most people don't understand how bed bug infestations happen. As a freelance ghostwriter, most of my clients are Russian or Middle Eastern men who publish 5 to 10 ghostwritten romance or erotica books a week under female pen names. They spend $10k a month and double or triple that by flooding the market. At one point one client told me he had 6 of the top 10 Regency romance spots on the paid bestseller list. I used to work in daycare. I have worked at several. I'm American. The law in Washington state was 14 toddlers to 2 staff. And most daycares try to run at the max amount, which provides a terribly stressful environment for children. Even if you enroll your kid in a daycare with less children to teacher ratio, the daycare is usually trying to raise it, and a couple less kids being there is temporary. State regulations can be bizarre and cause even less ratio of care. For example, every child must have their diaper changed every 2 hours or more, all day, and be documented. Multiply that by 14 kids. So changing all 14 diapers, potty training some every 2 hours for 8-10 hours days. The 2 staff rule is really just one person watching the kids for most of the day while the other person is changing diapers. A good environment being provided is almost impossible when one person is watching 14 toddlers. The state taxes daycares for breaking any small rule, so they struggle to make money and pay people fairly, hire more staff. The majority of regular broadcast radio shows are pre-recorded. If a DJ is broadcasting live, usually the morning shows, they still have no control over what music plays. It's all pre-programmed. They'll usually record phone requests and replay them during the voice break before the requested song is scheduled to play anyway, to make it seem like they're playing taking requests. And the studio is empty. All phone lines are set to busy, so no one calls and realizes there's no one there to answer. Most hospitals are actually crazy trusting about who they release dead bodies to when people die. Oftentimes I show up with just a gurney and someone's name scribbled on a post-it note, and they just let me walk out with somebody's grandma without asking my name or getting ID or anything. So, like, do you work for a funeral home? Just have a weird hobby? Or what? Vet worker here. Probably doesn't count as a secret, but we absolutely do pet your cats and dogs a lot when you bring them in. I'm a furniture upholsterer, and the amount of times other professionals just recover the old fabric and filling drives me mental. If you're paying for reupholstery, ask for progress photos. I am in IT. We don't always know why the fix worked and we don't care. The amount of salt and fat in your food, especially at high quality restaurants. We kept a large hotel pan full of clarified butter behind the line. ITDBMT by the end of the night. I think it was Anthony Bourdain who said the secret that made all restaurant food taste so good was that absolutely everything was just saturated with butter. There's a little Asian 19-year-old in that Mickey outfit. Knew a guy that worked at WDW about 7-8 years ago. He said Tim Kerbal was a short Asian man. Edit. To clarify, he was not walking around greeting folks. Though I haven't seen Sai apparently. At the end of the night, Sitting Kerbal is loaded into a harness and Sifli is in front of Cinderella's castle. This is the part he did. The other interesting fact was that Disney couldn't get insurance for this, so they paid him $500 cash every night. Said to be the highest paid character. That reinforced glass and that security camera may not actually be unbreakable or being monitored or recorded, respectively. If you can see the monitor showing the camera feed, it doesn't actually mean it's being recorded. 2. These things can just be there to make people guess whether it actually works or not. Go ahead. Roll that dice. People typically just go somewhere where there isn't a camera or glass. Instead. That most of those 3 people have booked this hotel today or 4 people are looking at this product right now. Pop-ups on travel agency website and e-commerce sites are lies. Totally static and made up. I worked as a retailer manager in the past. A customer's attitude and approach is about 99% of the reason someone would help them solve a problem. Sale ended yesterday? Your return is past the date? You want a better price on a clearance item? Be a normal kind of person and you'll usually get your way. If you start off being shitty or demanding, then sorry, I can't help you. It's store policy. We know all the websites you are visiting and all the rounds of Minesweeper you are playing while you are at your desk. Engineering is the art of molding materials we do not wholly understand into shapes we cannot precisely analyze so as to withstand forces we cannot properly assess, in such a way that the public has no reason to suspect the extent of our ignorance. A.R. Dykes. British Institution of Structural Engineering. If you buy an antique or a vintage piece, it most likely went through 5 hands, each one at least doubling the price. Yup. I never buy antiques that are sold as antiques. You want to buy the antiques that are sold as junk or true barn finds. If the seller calls it an antique, they know too much. That just because something is patented doesn't make it any good. Stupid tea is patented every day. Your dog or cat is much more comfortable when you are there with them during euthanasia. It's really hard when people say, "It's too hard for me to be here with him," and leave the room for it. It is one of the hardest things ever. But they need you there with them. They look around for you sometimes. That being said, if we do the euthanasia without you, we always have one staff member whose only job during the procedure is to cuddle and comfort your pet and tell them how much their owner loves them. And what a good boy they are. Classical musician. Lots of us at your local symphony are drugged up on beta blockers when we perform. Propranolol. Aka perform it all. That stuff is flat out incredible. It's widely used in any sort of TV radio interview setting as well. And I've used it for job interviews and big presentations. It completely cuts out the tightening in your chest, the shortness of breath, the rush of blood pressure, etc. that can come on in high pressure situations. You know that feeling where you can breathe in deeply, but it never quite feels like you can completely exhale. It pretty much eliminates that. Teacher here. I learned early on in the game that there are a lot of supplies we don't have to pay for if we just know where to look and how to ask nicely. Want to have a lesson about plants? Go to a grocery store florist a few days ahead and ask if they can set aside their dying flowers for your class. Need cardboard? Ask a store for their old boxes. I've even heard of my colleagues just going to stores and asking for donations and explaining why, and getting new stuff for free. It's amazing how much people are willing to go out of their way to help educate kids. I'm not sure if you realize how unintentionally depressing this is. Your secret boils down to if you scavenge on your own time enough, you can afford to educate kids instead of paying out of your own pocket just to do your job. I see the bright side too. That people are willing to help. But it's nuts that you have to go find that help. Libraries throw away, pulp or otherwise recycle a lot of old books. We get a lot of awful, tatty stuff donated. We have old, manky books that we need to get rid of to make shelf space for newer stock. And we have standards for anything we sell off at library stock sales. It's just easier to throw things out. Sometimes things go to the workroom for repair or cleaning straight in the bin. We do this because if customers knew, they might damage things that they wanted to buy from us. Going to the hospital by ambulance doesn't mean you'll see a doctor any quicker. My family owns a peach garden. Peaches are really delicate fruits. They're soft and watery. Perfect for any insect to lay eggs. So you need to take good care of them. But sometimes the weather doesn't care about that and stuff might happen, so now all your peaches have bugs. What do? You can't sell spoiled peaches, but you need money. Sell them to juice companies for 5 cents a kilo. Enjoy your war peach juice. This isn't only for peaches, BTW, any sort of juices like that. When temperamental artists ask us to adjust the sound and we pretend to twiddle knobs. 25 years as both performer and tech. I have seen both the best and worst of both sides. The best was an internationally renowned jazz artist with an incredibly exacting tech rider. He would not enter the venue until his road manager reviewed every piece. The tech director was totally chill about it and told me he and his fans have certain expectations, and our job is to meet them. When sound check started, the artist was incredibly gracious, thoughtful, respectful, and exacting. An absolute delight in every way. And we didn't stop until it was perfect. Some artists are temperamental pricks. And some engineers are condescending douchebags. I have had my fill of both. The true pros work together to create a great experience. Edit. A lot of people are asking. So it was Richard Bonner. Great dude. Cinema theaters are full of bugs. No matter how much you clean, bugs will live off the food dropped and are very good at hiding. Even exterminators can't get them all. Plus, with all kids of people coming in, they bring in bugs, fleas, lice etc, and we can't refuse service just because someone absolutely stinks. Think about that next time you sit down. Not unheard of for cinema workers to keep your lost property and cash they find. Though most staff won't. 1 or 2 defo will. High value lost property gets given to managers to deal with. And yes, this absolutely includes upmarket fancy cinemas. I work at a jewelry store that produces custom pieces. Diamonds and other precious stones get dropped and lost. By everyone. Constantly. 3 or 4 times a day you will hear FCK. Nobody move. Get the flashlight. I saw the owner drop a whole tray of sapphires one day. Pretty sure part of his soul died. We're usually more careful with customers' stones. Though. Usually. Advertisers can show you ads that are related to what your wife, husband, girlfriend, etc. has been looking at online. If you have acknowledged your relationship, i.e. marital status on Facebook, and are often in the same location, advertisers assume you're talking about getting a bike or planning a trip etc and will serve you ads even if you haven't been the person looking them up. Edit. I should clarify it's not down to the specific advertiser or brand that know all this information about you. And it's not associated with you as an individual, i.e. they don't know your name. But rather it's the program that collects data and sells ad space based on that data. I can fix most people's computer issues by doing 3 things. 1. Run a free scan from Malwarebytes. 2. Open up msconfig. MSC from typing it in the start menu. Then going over to all the services and startup items and turning off so much crap that is either a virus, says unknown, or a blank. For the manufacturer name, or unnecessary, you can Google if you don't know. Plus click the box that says hide Microsoft to dumb it down a bit. 3. Make them a new user account that doesn't have admin rights. They'll need to put in an admin name and password when they really want to install things. No need to always be logged in as an admin. Clickbait will kill your PC. Then doing a few reboots. Wash your fruits and vegetables. If a box breaks open and produce falls out, we rebox it and ship it. It's grown in dirt. Insurance agent here. To all home buyers. Make sure you buy some sort of mold coverage. When pipes burst or you have a leaky faucet or some sort of water damage, we'll write it off as non-covered mold. Save yourself an extra hassle and get some limited mold coverage. Heed my warning. Edit. Also, when we stress saying in the event of a covered loss, it really means it's a 50/50 chance of it depending on how claim adjusters see it. Teachers do have favorites. Addictions counselor here. A lot of police drink too much. A lot of childcare providers use opiates. Software developer. A lot of large financial systems are held together with duct tape code and have no real documentation or specifications. Also, there's a good chance that a large number of the staff are fresh out of uni and are just muddling along. I did my student placement at a major insurance software company which handled billions in transactions. At one point, the entire support team was a single student with no oversight. Former profession. Catholic school principal. Open secret. Private schools lower their costs and increase their test scores by expelling students with special needs or low grades. Anyone with a disability costs extra because you have to spend more on support services. And private schools like to brag about being academically better than public ones. Instead of helping vulnerable kids, many such schools abandon them for better optics and more money. Current profession. Tabletop RPG designer. Open secret. The pay is crap. You cannot make a living this way unless you're extremely lucky. I have a day job and very understanding wife. What's worse is how some game companies purposefully target folks wanting to break into game design by offering them work at super low rates. $0. 03/word is common, but still low. But I've seen a Shats offering $0. 005/word, yes. Half a cent, or the scam where there's no pay because you'll receive exposure. For some reason, medical device prices are inflated beyond the stratosphere against what it costs to make them. I understand there are more regulating organizations that are applicable for medical devices and not other products, automotive, electrical, petrochemical, but what the FCK? An item that costs us $700 to make is sold to our dealers in $3K. Then they sell those to hospitals in $7K. Then the hospital sells and the client patient in $10K. Anyone whose job is to transport a dead body has dropped one at least once or twice. Insurance rep here. Your credit score matters more than people realize. It can affect your auto insurance premium by as much as $100 a month. And if you're a renter, I can pretty much ballpark your credit score by running a renter's insurance quote for you. The higher the monthly premium for your renter's insurance, the shittier your credit score. It is not difficult to get super realistic details in CGI. I see people look at stuff like the stitching on shirts and how there's some fuzz on a peach or something like that in animated films. It looks impressive. But those details are super easy to make. Just slap on a normal map and a particle system. Of course, some details like cobwebs are more complicated, but overall the tiny little things are just a texture or particle system. The actual hard stuff goes completely unrecognized if it's done well. Compliment the character rigging every now and then. It's much more difficult. Nurse manager here. We nurses aren't saints. Generally. Most of us are caring, hard-working people. But we have the same people problems as the general population. Opioid addiction. Affairs with married men. DUIs. Time card fraud. The list goes on. Was a cop. Always in the ER, and let me tell you. If there was a prick in there pissing them all off. They got the biggest garden hose of a Foley catheter they could find if he needed one. This isn't a secret. But everything is photoshopped. I am constantly pointing out to people a bad Photoshop job in an ad. And people will say, "What are you talking about? Looks real to me." Trust me. Everything is photoshopped. Put through a filter. Shrunken. Stretched. Brightened. Just to make you want to buy it. Construction piss bottles everywhere. I work at a fabrication shop, and the number of times something isn't to spec and still gets sent out is unbelievable. Gallows humor is how many in 911 call centers and emergency services handle some of the shit we deal with. Automotive technician here, and maybe I've been extremely fortunate, but the shop is usually not out to screw you. A lot of the upsells people scream about are the fact that I have to take these parts off to get to the part I have to fix replace. The parts that came off have 100,000 miles on them. Let me save you labor and replace them now instead of 6 months to a year later. The other upsells that cause people to cry foul are usually maintenance recommended by the manufacturer at that interval. And in my personal experience, when someone is getting screwed at a shop, it's because of a service writer or service manager trying sell unneeded work, not the mechanic. Worked as a McDonald's manager, and pretty much the entire store had the understanding of telling the customer that the ice cream machine was broken, when the reality is that usually the machine goes into a heat curing cycle for the ice cream mix. It's easier to say it's broken than to explain this. And during the summer days, when everyone ordering sundaes or cones, the machine goes into a lock mode until it can freeze the ice cream again. Or else you just getting lukewarm liquid ice cream mix. Military grade literally translates into the lowest bidder. A lot of military personnel, especially the Marines, use stuff from the Vietnam War, hand-me-downs from the army, etc. Real estate agents do not believe their job is to get you the best price. To agents, there is an unwritten understanding that you have a realistic expectation when buying a property. They can consult you, guide you, and employ some basic negotiating tactics. But they aren't interested in wheeling and dealing at the chance of a paycheck, even if they make you believe they are hustling hard to find you a diamond deal. If you start to become unrealistic, many agents will just start to frame everything as a great deal and once in a lifetime to get you to buy, to avoid having wasted their time. The sauna only gets cleaned out once a week. Twice if you're lucky. Also, the pools are never emptied for cleaning, they have filters for that. Essentially a gigantic fish tank for humans. The chlorine sterilized any fecal matter or any form of bile that comes out of the human body. All we do is scoop the chunks and send you all back in. Nursing homes have no f***ing clue how to order medication for their residents. Most people who work in IT support really aren't more tech savvy than the average user. They just know how to Google. The recycling market is way down in the US because China had stopped accepting most of our recyclables. So, a lot of what you think you're recycling is just ending up in the landfill anyway. That some of the best attorneys are public defenders. The problem is that it's a crapshoot. You can literally get the best defender in the state or someone going through the motions. I work as an accountant in production, Hollywood. People cheat and lie to studio companies and generate fake invoices and pocket in cash. It's an extremely corrupt industry. Electrician here. Electrical isn't that hard. A couple of how-to books from your library and a code book can teach you all you need to do basic electrical work. The hard part is just understanding how it works. X model. If you're looking at brandless and cheap lingerie online, especially those from country I've worked in, there's a good 60% chance that the model's under 18. I thought you were about to give us a tip on saving money and I was gonna ask for specific websites. Now I need to go boil my keyboard. Bartender here. Bus driver here. We too. And if we drive off without you, we do it intentionally. There is no cloud. It's just someone else's computer. Depending on the state, security guards can't actually detain you if they suspect you of a crime. Before a psychiatric patient enters a cargo aircraft to be transported from one medical facility to the next, crash axes, used to hack through the fuselage in the event of a crash where all doors are stuck shut, are removed from the walls and stored in a locked bin. I'm a plumber. Flushable wipes are not flushable. Disposals are not for leftovers. Work in telecommunications. 90% of the time your computer trouble is entirely your own fault. If the customer is actually right, someone f***ed up. Almost every elderly person living in a retirement home wants to die. There's a grace period if the person is relatively healthy, but as soon as they realize they are destined to live in the same room the rest of their life, they are quick to ask everyone around them to kill them. Just today I was asked by about 4 members if I would kill them. Edit. To clarify, the wing I work in is assisted living where most everyone in there is unable to live on their own and requires assistance around the clock. Most people have some form of dementia and most of their family is stuck them there because they couldn't deal with it. If you're at a cheap burger place in a poorer part of town or understaffed, there's absolutely a chance people don't wash their hands before cooking. Or don't wear gloves. I've seen plenty of buns hit the dirty ass floor and still be used. Gloves are terrible. Just picked up some chicken? Go to wash my hands cause they feel like I've touched raw chicken. I'm wearing gloves. My hands are still clean. I didn't even feel the chicken. The difference between a security guard and a security officer. A security guard can observe and report and not touch you. A security officer has training required in most states and has certain legal empowerment. Security officers can restrain and hold you, but for very limited time frames and are very specific circumstances. A good example of this is legally bouncers are classified as security officers. That is why bouncer can physically remove a patron from a bar if they're actively causing a problem. Mall security guards tend to be security guards, and while they can watch you do things and call the police on you, they actually can't touch you or attempt to hold you physically. That banking is simple and easy. And anyone can do it. It takes money. And that's about it. Most banking operations are more software and service companies. With good marketing. Than anything else. Always haggle prices at your bank. Always. In California, most consumer products come with the added warning sticker that this product might cause cancer. In all likelihood, it won't. There is only one reason companies still put these tags on the products. California regulations state that in order for a product not to have to apply that sticker, they need to test every ingredient in their product to make sure it isn't carcinogenic. However, the cost of doing these tests is far more than the couple of dollars that it costs to print a label. Thus, the companies choose the label.